And good afternoon and welcome to Emerald Downs. Paul Beatty along with Tony Davila here on the Eli Sports Network. Back for another year of coverage here from the track in Auburn. Got a great special guest here, Jeff Metz, one of the trainers. Been here for, 5, 6, 7, 8 years now?
5 seasons, and this is going on number 6.
Number 6 here. You have been, of course, training a lot down south. I follow you on Twitter. You're everywhere, aren't you?
Good. Yeah, right now we were at Santa Anita and Turf Paradise, and then we ventured up here to get ready for this meet.
And so over the last, I guess what first attracted you to come up to Emerald Downs 5 years ago?
You know, I had the Turf Paradise string for, going on 8 to 10 years now. And I'd gone a couple other places, Arapahoe Park and Prairie Meadows. And I was just looking for somewhere that those horses would fit, the ones that were at Turf Paradise. Even though there's not a turf course here, I thought at that time I was just looking for something where, modest horses would have a nice place to land. And then the first year, right before I came, I was able to buy a horse called Easy Kitty. And, to go along with a lot of cheaper maidens and cheaper claimers, non-twos, non-threes, it was sure nice to have a filly like that in the barn.
Yeah, it's this track up here, and again, I guess being introduced to the history and the long time and how deep the horse racing roots are here in this area. Did that surprise you a little bit when you came up?
It did. Funny story. I'm now 51, but when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, my dad was racing horses up in the Bay Area. That's where I grew up, Northern California. And he had a horse with Kathy Walsh at Longacres.
Okay.
So we have a win picture where I'm a little kid in the win picture, and so that was my experience with Longacres. But until I'd come up, I actually flew up and kind of checked it out before I decided to ship in here, and it was kind of a long way to come. So I wanted to make sure, and when I came here, it was a good feel. The people were very welcoming. At that time, the fields were pretty small, 5 and 6 horse fields. So when I came up with 25 to 30 horses, I think it was a good infusion at the right time.
Yeah, there's no doubt you were welcomed at that time.
So we were running a lot of horses the first few years, and we still do. We're usually run the most, or second or third most anyway, and we fill the entry box as much as possible. But it did. What I didn't realize when I came up was the Seattle-based people. They're so into their sports,
Right.
The Seahawks, the Mariners, and even the horse racing. For a small track with, modest claimers, you like today, you got a big crowd, and just throughout the year, Friday night is a good atmosphere, Saturday and Sunday, as long as the weather's pretty decent, and the time of year that we race here, we get the best weather that Seattle has to offer.
Yeah, no question about that. Now, Emerald Downs again this year will run just Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Just Saturdays and Sundays, I think, until mid-May.
Yeah.
Is that create much of a problem for you, or is that actually a nice kind of lead-in to?
I think it works for both sets of people. The ones that had the winter off and they're getting their horses ready, we started about 2 weeks later this year, so I think that gave them more time to get ready, especially anytime the winter can be a little harsh, so that gives them a couple more weeks to get ready. The 1 day of entries instead of 2, I think that helped people. And then Turf Paradise ends right around Kentucky Derby weekend, so a lot of times I would leave, say, 3 or 4 weeks early from Turf Paradise, and so this year I was able to stay a little bit longer because the races started later at Emerald Downs. And we didn't have to necessarily be here and train, so I was able to bring them in kind of fit and ready to run. So my only worry or concern was shipping in and letting them get over the trip, because it is oftentimes a 2-day trip.
Yeah, it's not around the corner.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it so? You have, of course, lower claimers all the way up to stakes horses.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough, like I said, that first year to have a horse like Easy Kitty. Then the following year, I had a horse that won some stakes for me on grass, but I brought him here off the layoff, and he won, called Why Not Be Perfect. He won the Governor's Cup Sprint. And then the following year, I claimed a horse, and he kind of took his way into some stakes called Cabrage. And then last year I had Citizen Kitty, as well as BCZ Middleton. So I when I came here, I had a barn full of cheaper maidens, but I was able to meet some new people and some people that wanted to put some money in the game. And the one thing I'll say, because I have owners in California, Arizona, and now Washington, but the ones from out of state, whenever they come up here and visit, they're really in awe of it. The hospitality at the track, the warm welcome, and the clean facility. So whenever people come and they see the barn's nice and clean, the front side is very clean. So even though I have out-of-town, out-of-state owners, when they do come for a weekend or two, then they're very impressed with the setup.
And like you say, they get the best weather, so they're usually it's a little surprised.
Yeah.
I thought it was supposed to be raining up here.
Yeah, they say it always rains in Seattle. And I used to think the same thing, and I can see now why when people, like you just think nothing of it. It's kind of like being in Phoenix when it's 80, 90 degrees. I mean, after a while, it's like, okay, it's going to be hot. You know? And so here you say, hey, it might rain. Have a jacket just
have
in
a jacket,
case.
exactly,
So, yeah.
exactly, as we get set. So coming into this season, like you said, you had some very familiar horses that a lot of race fans at Emerald Downs know. Are they going to be back? Who's going to be back for you this year?
So Citizen Kitty is on her way up. She was at Santa Anita for a couple of races, kind of testing the waters there. But she is a Washington bred, so she's going to venture up here next week. I have BCZ Middleton, who's going to be coming off a layoff. She's here, stabled now. I have some new 2-year-olds that, we'll see what they're all about. And Cabrage is in the barn as well. So he's coming off a layoff, too. So there's a few of the familiar names. Some of the claimers from last year, I don't think there'll be too many. Like one that runs today called Please Be Me, he ran here last year. Bullet Express, he runs today. He was here last year. Weave It to Beaver, she was here last year. And those 3 horses run today. So there are a few mixed in with some new, fresh faces.
One of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years, as purses are starting to creep up and get a little better and a little better, excuse me there, the claiming game seemingly has really picked up the last couple of years. Where when we were talking, when you first got here in those 5 and 6 horse fields, seemed like there was a lot more hesitation. Didn't want to take horses from anyone and trying everyone. But now it seems like the last couple of years, that part of the game has really stepped up. Or am I just imagining that?
You're hitting it right on the target there. So when I first came, everybody knew everybody. I was kind of a new person, kind of an outsider. And I didn't really know all the people, and everybody else had known everybody for 10 or 20 years. So nobody wanted to claim off their friend or anything like that. I didn't really know them, so I just claimed a horse here and there that looked worth the money. So so at that first year, there wasn't not too much claiming going on. But then I think it was the second or third year I was here when you saw that big bump in purses where the Muckleshoots came in and kind of raised the purses. At that time, then all of a sudden the claiming really took off. I mean, I don't think it was because I was claiming. It just became like, well, the purses are good, we're going to claim. and people had saw, you know what? You claim off somebody you know, they claim one of your, it just kind of is a mixture of horse trading, and, you hope for the best. You hope you get a good claim, and some days you get one claimed away, and that horse was kind of on his way down, so it wasn't a bad thing.
Well, the other thing is the number of horses have increased, and, it's – I could understand back in the day where, geez, you don't want to pull, you don't want to claim a horse off a guy who's got 4 horses or something like that. You're all trying to make them. There is a kinship to it there, so you're kind of aware of those things as well on top of it.
And I think the other thing, they started in putting in a shipping bonus, so they would pay. So it would kind of help if you were to get something out of, if you claim something or bought something out of Golden Gate or Santa Anita, that there would be like a shipping bonus for first-time runners here at Emerald Downs. And I think over the last couple of years, I think that helped infuse some new horses into the program. And anytime you have people buying horses in Arizona or California and bring them into Washington, that those 5 and 6 horse fields turn into 7 and 8 horse fields. And now even if the horses get claimed, basically it's the same number.
Right.
But now when you get horses coming from out of state, now you're increasing the numbers, and especially the runners. You're like this year, which is a few other trainers have said similar to what I have seen. There's a lot of 2-year-olds on the ground this year.
Yeah.
So it seems more than the last couple of years. So I think you're going to see a few more 2-year-old races than in past. As long as everything, the horses stay healthy and they don't have any setbacks that don't allow them to run. But right now, there's a pretty healthy amount of 2-year-olds in training here at Emerald Downs.
Have you also seen horse ownership and new folks? Are you seeing some new folks? I think the thing that I've noticed is more of the groups. Some friends are talking some folks into trying it out, at least getting in on a horse, and that's got to be a positive step for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things, winning a lot of races, that helped. And there were many times the first year I would be walking in the grandstand and I would hear people talking about Metz or Jeff Metz, and they didn't know I was right next to him. But then after we won, and the second year I walked through the grandstand, everybody said hello or hi, and they knew who I was, even if I didn't know them. So that was kind of interesting. But as far as you say, like I would myself, I try to do, like you see, Facebook and Twitter and do some ads. Hey, horse partnerships. Also, I've done booths at the races, and I've done program ads. And all that is people that wanted to get a racehorse and give them a chance, because a lot of people have thought about it, but they don't know how to get involved. They don't know how to take that next step. The track.
They don't know the cost. They
exactly.
don't. They just the
Yep,
basic. And
exactly. Because I get a lot of people that maybe they didn't realize how much it cost, or on the other side, they didn't know they could get in for as little as 10%,
right,
and share the cost. So, but they're just as excited if their horse wins or they come down to the paddock. So I think with Emerald Downs, they have the Emerald Racing Club, and that kind of introduces new owners to the sport for a one-time fee of $500. I've had a few people that have come out of that and joined my team. Also, just like I said, from different little marketing things to just present it and start the conversation. Then I have a little back and forth dialogue explaining to them the costs of how much if you owned your own horse 100%, this is what it would cost. And then if you own 10%, it's an easy math to do.
Exactly.
So, instead of $2,000 a month for your own horse, for $200 a month, you could probably own 10% and come to the barn and visit your horse, come to the races and watch them run.
Hey, Jeff, and this is, I've got some friends, and we're talking about, trying to get this thing figured out a little bit. And I said, well, I get the question, well, why would I want to do that? I said, because this is as close as you're ever going to get to owning an NFL franchise, my friend.
Yeah.
So, or an NBA franchise.
I have a little saying that I say, when as all of us, we'll bet the races. And so when you bet $2 on a horse and you're pretty excited, I think for the general fan that's a fun thing, because you get excited if you're at a football game or a basketball game, but in racing you can pick which one you want to bet on and you put it out there. Well, then when you take it to the next level and you become an owner, when your horse is going in the gate, your heart's beating and pumping like that. And I had one new owner just a couple months ago, and we won a race at Santa Anita, and he was a new owner, and he was in Las Vegas watching March Madness. So he tells me, man, as our horse was winning by 5 lengths, he goes, I was cheering so loud in Las Vegas, I made a fool out of myself. And I said, I told you, I can tell you how exciting it is, but until you feel your own horse winning, there's nothing like it. So it's kind of a euphoric kind of feeling when your horse wins. I've had even the owner of Easy Kitty, when he came, it was funny because she won a big stake, and this quiet, mild-mannered guy, and I don't think he gets that kind of excitement at the office,
Exactly.
So, but he's a competitive person, and he was cheering as loud as anybody. So it is exciting, and that's why I try to open it up to people getting involved and see if they like it. And then, just like you said, what happens sometimes is you might be talking to one person, but they have a friend or a relative that actually wants to do it more than they do. So it's really just putting it out there and letting people try it. And, sometimes the first one doesn't go so well. Hopefully they stick around for another, because sometimes the kiss of death is to have great success on your very first horse, and then you have high expectations all the way. But it is an up-and-down business. You see jockeys, trainers, owners go through the highs and lows of racing, and you just hope that it evens out and everybody gets their chance to really enjoy success.
But as a 10% owner, and the rush that you get in seeing your horse win, times that by 1,000, and now people might understand why you chose this as a career and how addicting the rush of winning and that adrenaline pumping is.
Yeah, definitely. I think as any of us, as little kids, we play sports, and then it slowly starts to tail off as you get older and you become an adult, and you can't do some of the things you used to do. And so the mind's willing, but the body, you just can't do the things. I used to exercise racehorses and ride in amateur jockey races, but now, I get to ride the pony horse now and then, but I get to watch and be part of it. And I really like coaching. I mean, I coached a lot of basketball. My major in college was kinesiology. So I really enjoy finding the key to a horse, and that's what drives me. The winning is great too, but even like you say, a second or third when a horse 20-1, and you're like, wow, look at, we got onto something there. We were on the right track.
Right.
So improvement
Figuring
is something
it out.
that I try to do. Yeah, figuring it out. To me, it's like a puzzle, and if it all comes together, that's when it's great. So, but the person that, like you said, has 10%. Maybe they could have 10% of 3 or 5 horses,
right.
And now they're still only half the cost of if they own their own. And I have a few owners like that because then they can come to the races 5 times as much.
Right, exactly. Well, we're about ready with race number 1 of the season here. You have any, for our folks that might like to wager $1 or $2 every now and then, any hints or things to look for early in the season when you have horses coming off a layoff and others shipping in? This is the most confusing time. This is where you have the least amount of information to work with.
Yeah, I would go off of what horses have done in the past, even though last year I came in, the first couple of years I thought, boy, I've been racing, it's going to be great. Well, it didn't really pan out because the races were so short, 5 and 5.5 furlongs. That fitness factor or race fitness didn't come into play like a person would have thought. So with that in mind, I would say, if a horse liked this track last year, even though he's coming off a layoff, I wouldn't be afraid to play him because they like the track. The track is a little better cushion this year than last year. It was a little hard and fast. This year it seems to be a little more cushion and a little bit more fair. So I don't think you just have to have speed to win.
Right.
I think you could lay off the pace just a little and still win. And I think it's going to be, with these 5 and 5.5 furlong races for these first few days of racing, I think you can play who you like and not be too worried about, well, this horse coming off a layoff. Yeah, race fitness helps, but horses for courses is a big thing.
Right. Anything to look for in a paddock when you're looking at a horse? I don't know what I'm looking at, for crying out loud. I've been following horses for forever.
No
I still
problem.
don't get it.
Well, this is a good little, I'll call it a layman's thing, that if you go to the paddock and you see one that is not overly nervous and you see one that has a very nice shiny coat, and if the odds aren't, the longest on the board, I would say that horse would be a good play. Because the coat tells you they're doing good. They're training well, they're happy and healthy, and the coat's looking good. If they're still a little long and wiry, they're just not quite there yet. And if they're sweating and dripping sweat and too antsy, then they're not too happy being where they're at. So there's a few things I would shy away from: a real hairy horse, a real sweaty horse, and the things I would lean towards is a horse that's got a beautiful coat, looks good, calm, cool, collected, and isn't over 10-1.
Right, exactly. and again, there's always exceptions to the rule. I mean, there's.
But that's a good base that you can hit more times than not.
But if you don't know what that exception is, then we've had some tremendous horses that if they weren't sweating, then you were worried about it. But that is few and far between.
And if you come to the races and go to the paddock quite a bit, then you could say, boy, that horse always does that. We know, like Striker PhD, he always had his thing about the gate.
Right.
But if he went in the gate, look out, he was a tough horse. But there was times when, it just, once you start to learn patterns on horses, then you can say, well, that horse does that all the time and still runs good.
All right, the horses are coming in, and when you have one in, you have a couple in today?
I do. I have race 3, the horse scratched, and then I have one in race 4. That one's in against a pretty tough horse, Wine at 9, and then I have a couple more throughout the card.
All right, excellent. So we're going to take a look, and it looks like we have one scratch in this one, and that is the 6 horse there, and that is, who is that? Wasatch Wonder?
Yeah, Wasatch Wonder.
Well, that was Frank's horse. Yeah, okay. So Desert Mama is, and we're going to go ahead and pan over there. Desert Mama is the favorite. Rocco Bowen is back with Tim McCanna. Now, he's back for the season, Jeff?
Yeah, he was at Golden Gate riding. But I think the fact that he wanted to get back to where he can win quite a few races, and I think that he wanted to venture back to his comfort zone.
Right, right, exactly. And so, uh,
It looks like he's got a good shot at winning this one.
yeah, he's
He
on
was well drawn on the outside, and his horse is running well.
sitting right off the leader there. The leader is of Good Cheer with P. Henry Jr. He's a new rider here
Yeah.
for Kay Cooper. And as they're coming here, again, just a 5 furlong event. And holding on right now is of Good Cheer. Here comes the favorite, Desert Mama.
Oh,
Nope,
now
not
it's
favorite.
on the outside.
Yeah, that's
And
of
it's
Good
funny
Cheer.
because this young fella here, Patrick Henry Jr., wait till you see him in the winner's circle. He's a spitting image of Rocco Bowen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's from Jamaica. He's a dark-skinned kid and very polite and a good horseman in the mornings.
So of Good Cheer with Patrick Henry Jr. gets the win opening day for the Kay Cooper Homestretch Farms. Boy, that's always a deadly combination.
Oh, yeah.
So-
There was a little bumping. He banged into the gray, the 3-horse there coming down the stretch. But I think that it could have been both of them coming together.
And that was bet on the gray, number 3, with Javier Matias, one of the journeymen here, and part of. And we're not going to go too much longer here, Jeff. But some of the things that are so fun about horse racing in here is, of course, Mach 1 rules and
Yeah.
Barkley and
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
little battles that these horses get into with each other.
Yeah.
And those rivalries, so fun,
Yeah.
and it's fun to see the new ones that get created along the way as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know the year we had Easy Kitty, there was another filly that Exclusive Diva.
Yeah.
We were going back and forth, taking turns. So, but she was more of a sprinter, and our filly stretched out. Diva didn't run the route races, but yeah, it was. You do get some of those rivalries.
So you got and someone had a clue here on Bet on the Gray. 8-1 morning line goes off 3-1 second favorite and runs a tight second, and then completing it is 10th Tiger with S1 Flores available or aboard, I should say, and again Michael Puich training the Bet on the Gray, and Steve Bullock, both longtime Emerald Down trainers here, and Kay Cooper winning it. So the regulars having their way here in
That's it. And
race
and
one.
This whole field was really what I would call kind of local people from top to bottom. You got Howard Belvoir, Neil Knapp, Mike Puich, Steve Bullock, Debbie Van Horn, Tim McCann, and Kay Cooper. So that's about as hometown people as you can get.
Real quick with the riders and the jockeys. I mean, is it and when you have multiple, do you have in your mind? Do you have riders that you want on certain horses, or do you just have a rider for the barn?
I think you try and match up the horse to the rider in the sense that, this rider's real good at getting him out of the gate. This is a good speed horse. This rider is a closer, and we need a strong finisher. And then some jockeys can do both. They're good out of the gate, and they are strong finishers. And then some horses, if they're in the right spot, it doesn't matter who was riding them. They're going to win without any traffic or problems at the gate. So I think, I'll be using Rocco Bowen as much as possible because he'll be the leading, probably, he's been the leading rider the last couple of years. But I think we have a good colony this year, a new face in Gary Wales. He's represented by the same agent as Rocco Bowen. And this Patrick Henry was very impressive in the first race here today. I think he's going to do well. Jose Zunino is very solid. He's been around these parts and had a great meet over in Portland. And, I think you got Lucas Gutierrez, who's a new apprentice in town, and Austin Solis, the son of Alex Solis. So
is here.
He's here riding.
Kevin Orozco is back.
Kevin Orozco's back as a journeyman rider this year.
And again, S1 Flores, Javier Martiz, both journeymen as well, coming back.
Yeah.
And so, a solid colony of jocks that are back, and it should be, and then we'll see if
Julian Coutan
makes his way back up here.
And we also have Eric Lopez that'll be riding here again. He rode here last year. And what I'm hearing is Julian Couton will be here about the third week of racing.
Okay.
So not as late as June, but not the first couple weeks either.
Right,
So,
right, and that's been quite a matchup between he and Rocco
yeah,
Bowen
they can
the
go
last
back and
couple
forth.
of years.
And last year they were represented by the same agent, but this year they're going to each have different agents this year.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that, because these other guys are saying, okay, we're tired of the Rocco and Julian Couton show, right?
Exactly.
See if anyone
So
else can step up.
they're out working hard in the mornings trying to secure mounts, and the hope is that they're going to get a live opportunity to show what they can do in the afternoon.
Jeff, if anyone is interested in getting in the game and understanding, how can they contact you?
If they go to my website, which is jeffreymetzracing.com, or they could also send me an email, pretty simple email. It's jeffmetzracing@gmail.com, and I'm happy to have them. They can find me on Facebook, Jeff Metz Racing, and you
Twitter
see,
as well.
Twitter as well, Jeff Metz Racing. So a Google of Jeff Metz Racing, and I'm sure you'll find me. And, I'm in Barn 7. I'm always here close by the paddock, so I welcome anybody to come up and say hi. And I'm happy to, like I said, I went to school to be a teacher and a coach, so I don't mind helping new people come along into the game because I think it helps everybody. The more owners we have in the game, the more longevity I have as a trainer, and the track has for having owners.
Well, we weren't sure how this first show was going to lay out here, as we were figuring, well, we're going to need to take breaks and all this other stuff, and we were going to be done by 2:15. It's 2:30, of course, and so just a lot of great information from you. We appreciate it. We'll be out and look for. Last year, I don't know if you got a chance, and I'll make sure to give you the links to the stories that we wrote last year. One of the things that I like, I went to Long Acres as an 8-year-old, even though you're supposed to be 10.
Right.
My grandma brought me because I was tall, and she thought she could sneak me in as a 10. So, I started coming as an 8-year-old. And my grandma was a pretty good handicapper. My grandpa listened to everyone, and he always had the winner. But then come to find out, he'd probably bet every
the whole field.
Yeah, exactly. But he had it.
There you go.
I got that one.
That's
of course
it.
he did. And so I do like to look back at the history, and I think this year is a special one as well. If I remember, it's the 85th year of parimutuel wagering in Washington State, going back to 1933. When Long Acres first opened. So I do like to look back how we got here and where it's going. So taking a look and doing some profiles on trainers and jockeys and owners and things like that. So we do that.
Sounds great. There was a couple that I was able to be part of. The horse Cabrage that we spoke of, he ended up the fastest 6 furlongs.
Okay.
And then 1 year on opening day, I won 5 races. That tied a state record. And then 1 year, I tied Tim McCanna's single season record of 66 wins.
Well, and I saw Tim not too long ago here, but he goes, I would like to be up here, but he's kind of
He's got a lot going on at Golden Gate.
Locked and loaded at Golden Gate nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's good to see him.
But no, it's fun, and I've been lucky to train a few that turned out to be Washington-bred champions of the year, and some horses of the meet in different categories. Easy Kitty, rare to get a mare as the horse of the meet, but she was a filly that did that, and. So I've enjoyed my time here, and I look forward to the future here, and I just try to keep racing going by bringing new horses here, and then little by little new owners.
And as we wrap this up here, the other thing that one of the things that I've always appreciated about horse racing is the gambling aspect of it. They're honest about it. They've always been honest about it, unlike the other sports where, you have fantasy football and they're betting on the Super Bowl, but we don't have anything, and there's lines and everything else, and we don't have anything to do. Come on, of course you do. That's part of sports in our culture. But the cool thing is with horse racing, and I always use this as an example, my brother, and in fact I worked here at Emerald Downs for the first 5 seasons in the promotions department. My brother would come out with his little twins, and he goes, I could go to a baseball game, or I could come to Emerald Downs. I could come to Emerald Downs on a family day. At the time, it cost $3 to get, or kids are free. Parking's free. Food is, compared to Safeco, is not even close.
Yeah.
So I could come here with $100, get in, have some food, and you know what? I might go home with more. He says, but it's a great afternoon, and it's as much as you want to put into it. And that's
Yeah,
it. You don't have to come out here and bet $1,000. You can come out
Nope.
here and bet 10 cents.
That's it. You got 10-cent superfectas. You could just bet a couple dollars every
Yeah.
race. Give yourself a $20 or $40 budget, and like you said, who knows? At the end of the day, you could come home with $100 and profit. It costs you nothing to come to the races, and then, like you said, worst case scenario, if you bet a few and lost, you had a nice day out at the track. You ran into
Exactly.
other people. The food wasn't too expensive, and
Yeah, exactly. So check out EmeraldDowns.com. There's a list of promotions. They're giving away, I think, 20 TVs today, too, or something
yeah,
here on opening day.
and if I'm hearing correctly, I think they're going to have some type of event or promotion every day.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
day, all season long.
So there's a ton of stuff happening at the track. The racing is fun. It is family friendly, and and we support that 100%. And come on out and check out the track this year at Emerald Downs. Thank you, Jeff Metz. Great to meet you here. Appreciate it.
Same here.
That's going to do it for us today here at the track. We will have some coverage coming up later today, or some. We'll have pictures and some stories. We'll be here for the feature race as well. We'll get some interviews and get those on the air as well. But so look for our Emerald Downs coverage on the EliSportsNetwork.com. And of course, right now, if you're interested in college baseball, JB Ewers is over on 2-0. Centralia is down right now. So Centralia and Tacoma are playing baseball. That's on our Twitter channel. You can head on over there and check out JB and Noel. And they'll have the action there for you for a doubleheader of college baseball this afternoon. And, folks, if you don't know, we have a huge schedule of high school sports coming up for the next 6 weeks, and we'll be capped off with a ton of state championships that we'll be covering Memorial Day weekend. Then once we get that, then we get locked and loaded on Emerald Downs, and that's a fun. Jeff, when I started this, I go, I love teachers' hours, but I don't want to be a teacher. But so then I have summers off now, so I'll come back to the races and do a little extra promotion and coverage here
great.
too.
That sounds great.
All right, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you next time here on the Eli Sports Network.
Centralia College is where your success begins. Fresh out of high school, want to extend your athletic career, or are heading back to class for a new career? Centralia College is a great place to start. It's not too early to begin planning, and the Centralia College Foundation can help you pay for your education. The foundation offers more than $500,000 in scholarships every year. You can apply easily by going to centralia.edu/scholarships. Centralia College is where your success begins.